General government decreased $1 million due to savings from rent. Expenditures are $15 million higher than the adopted budget. We did have some changes in the enterprise funds. The combined utility system expenditures decreased by $39.7 million, and that was due to a $1.4 million decrease in operating revenues, an $18 million decrease in operating expenses, a $3 million increase in non-operating revenues, and a $20 million decrease in operating transfers. A $1 million increase in revenues for the dedicated drainage and street renewal fund that's projected due to higher interest rates, and expenditures are expected to decrease by $7 million. Expenditures for the stormwater fund are expected to decrease by $5 million, and that's due to delays in vehicle purchases and personnel savings. And finally, our commercial paper and bonds, all of our variable rate debt is well below the 20% threshold. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, and since we're taking both one at a time, if there are questions that you have for Comptroller Brown, this would be a good time to pose any questions to Comptroller Brown. Any questions, Comptroller Brown? Thank you, Comptroller.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person will be the Finance Director, Tantri Emo.
Good morning. This is the 8+4 financial report for the period ending February 29, 2020. The fiscal year 2020 projections are based on 8 months of actual results and 4 months of projections. In the general fund, our revenue projection is $9 million higher than the adopted budget and $2.5 million higher than the 7+5 reports. The variance from last month's projection is mainly due to $2.9 million increase in telephone franchise fees due to higher than anticipated receipts, and $2.7 million increase in other franchise, mainly due to higher than anticipated cable TV franchise fees. As you recall, during the budget was, because of the Senate Bill 1152, the budget was based on the median of the minimum and maximum loss. Now that we have received some of those payments, we have a better information and therefore revising our 2020 projections. Another increase is for licenses and permits by $556,000. This is mainly due to higher than anticipated special food and food managers permits. $282,000 increase in sale of capital assets due to higher than anticipated easement sales, offset by $2.8 million decrease in municipal court fines and forfeits, mainly due to lower than anticipated moving violations and suspended sentence fees. Offset also by $584,000 decrease in direct interfund services, mainly due to lower than anticipated personnel costs, and decrease by $313,000 in industrial assessment, mainly due to lower than anticipated taxable values. Our expenditure projection is $14.8 million higher than the adopted budget and $6 million higher than last month's projection. Variance from last month's projection is mainly due to $6.1 million increase in police department. This is to reflect the workers' compensation payments and additional police overtime. $2.3 million increase in solid waste departments. This is mainly due to higher than anticipated overtime. $621,000 increase in various departments. This is due to increase in interfund vehicle services, which is offset by savings in electricity and fuels. $2.4 million decrease in various departments to reflect vacancy savings, and $1 million decrease in general government to reflect building rental savings. With that, our current projection in ending fund balance is about $202 million, which is $3.5 million lower than last month's projection and 9.4% of the estimated expenditures less debt service and pay-as-you-go. With that, our current fund balance is $41 million above the targeted 7.5% of the expenditures less debt service and pay-as-you-go. Our projection on enterprise funds, DDSRF and stormwater are the same as the Controller's Office. So I'm going to move on to the changes in the special fund. So as you see in this report, you will see several changes that is occurring in the special fund. So I'm going to focus on those that has a $1 million variance projection from last month. The first special fund impacted is property and casualty fund. Both revenues and expenditures decreased by $3.2 million from last month's projection. This is mainly due to lower insurance premiums and personnel savings. Asset forfeiture funds revenues increased by $1.1 million, mainly due to higher than anticipated confiscations. Expenditures decreased by $279,000 to reflect savings in personnel, supplies, and delays in equipment purchases. BARC Special Fund expenditures decreased by $1.2 million to reflect savings in personnel, supplies, and services. Building inspection funds revenues increased by $1.8 million due to higher permit fees. Expenditures decreased by $19.2 million, primarily due to Houston Permitting Center expansion deferral, savings in personnel and services, as well as delay in contract implementations on the capital server refresh and vehicle purchases. Operating transfer out in building inspection fund increased by $5.2 million to reflect debt service prepayment. Health Special Revenue Fund revenues increased by $1.1 million, mainly due to higher than anticipated reimbursement from Medicaid Administration Claims and Veteran Affairs Program. Expenditures decreased by $613,000 to reflect savings in personnel, supplies, and delays in vehicle purchases. Last but not least, in the Police Special Service Funds, revenues increased by $2 million, primarily due to higher than anticipated police services outside law enforcement agencies, contributions and judgment and claims. Expenditures decreased by $2.8 million, mainly due to delays in equipment purchases. Thank you very much, and that concludes our report.
Yes, Councilmember Knox.
Thank you, Mayor. Director, how are you doing this morning?
Good.
Great. So, you know, we have this COVID-19 thing going on, and I've noticed that, you know, we're probably going to have a reduction in our sales tax, substantial reduction in our sales tax. At what point will we start to see that in your reports?
So,
It's like a 3-month, 2-month delay, 3-month delay? What are we looking at there?
typical sales tax receipt, we will get that in, there's a 2 months delay. So right now, and that's why I'm not projecting any sales tax projections at this point for fiscal year 2020, what we have right now is based on the January receipt. We have not received February receipt yet. So we are monitoring that, and if so, we will have that projected in the next MOFAR. With the stay-at-home policy order that we have right now, as you know, there will be an impact to the sales tax for the month of March. It depends on how long this is going to go. So
Exactly my point.
Right. So we will be reflecting that impact in the next monthly financial reports.
Okay, so I just want to, just so the public understands, we're aware that this is coming. We are
Right.
making plans to deal with it, but we don't have the numbers right now to know exactly where we are. As you know, budget process is coming up, and we're going to have to be anticipating what that drop will be. Are you, or is your office doing any work right now to
Of
try to
course.
estimate that drop-off in sales tax?
Of course. So we also run our regression models in the office, and also we engage with outside parties. We have Mike Lofton and Dr. Gilmer. So we use their projections to gauge what we would be anticipating in fiscal year 2021 projections or budget.
And that information will be available to us on council prior to...
When we propose the budget, you would see all of those coming unfold, as well as what the anticipated initiative that we will have to do to close the gap. One thing that I need to point out, our sales tax projections right now in this MOFAR, again, is based on the projections based on January receipt and remaining months at a flat growth. So again, we are looking into what the impact is going to be for fiscal year 2020 projections.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you. Alice. Oh, I'm sorry. Mayor Pro Tem. Well, let me just say before you make that motion, because we have been taking into account already what is happening. So we've been, the finance director and the team, we've been working on this over the last 30 days. You're not going to see a dip in the sales tax for January or February. It's probably, it will start occurring in March, because that's when things started hitting. And so we're taking into account that we are going to see a reduction in our sales tax March, April, May, June. All of that's being factored in. And so in the budget that as we work through, we'll all work through it, you're going to see that factored and taken into account. And we utilize an aggressive model, as well as to looking and talking to other people. No one really knows how long this will be or what the future will be. So you just have to make the best predictions, and then the budget that would be presented will be a conservative one as we work through it. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes,
Lamont.
thank you, Mayor. Make a motion to accept the monthly financial report for the month February 2020 as presented.
It's been moved and seconded. Any objection? Chair is none. Motion is granted. Thank you. Let me just make some comments. Today, the Houston Health Department is doubling its daily COVID-19 testing capacity. Second community drive-through site has now been stood up. And so, whereas before we were doing 250 tests per day, with these two sites, it will go up to 500 per day. And as we work to get additional support from our federal partners in terms of PPEs and test kits, the hope is that we can even do more and expand more. I'm also encouraging private testers like Legacy and others to go in other neighborhoods, sectors of the city of Houston to do more testing. But we do know the more testing we do, the more we can have a better idea of the community spread that's taking place within the city of Houston. But the second testing site, and that's for anybody who's symptomatic. If you're experiencing symptoms, dry cough, fever, tightness of chest, regardless of your age, you can certainly call the Houston Health Department and go through their proper protocol, and they'll give you an authorization code, and you can proceed and get testing. And that number is 832-393-4220, 832-393-4220, and you can call between 9 and 7 p.m. And so you have those sites, 2 in the city of Houston and 2 in Harris County. As of yesterday, the count in terms of confirmed cases in the city of Houston, that number is 377. And fully anticipate that number to continue to rise. Fully anticipate that number to continue to rise. The good news is that the more we test and people are identified, then we can engage in the contact tracing and isolate people as much as possible. Let me make this note. If you are being tested, or if you have been tested and you're waiting on the results, please return home and quarantine yourself. What you should not do, if you're tested, don't know the results, don't go back. For example, if you're working for an essential employer, don't go back to work as you wait for the test results. Don't do that. Because I'm hearing some cases people are getting tested, and then they start thinking they're feeling better, and then they go back, for example, go back out, or even visiting people. You don't want to do that. If you're not feeling well, please stay at home if you're not feeling well. If you think, for example, if you've traveled, and I've heard of one case, a person, for example, went to California, just went to California, came back, and wasn't feeling well, but he was going around visiting his relatives, friends, and then a few days later started experiencing symptoms. So you don't want to do that. So if you're traveling outside the state of Texas, and come back, please would respectfully ask that you quarantine yourself. And if you're not feeling well, don't just keep going about as if it's no big deal. Just think about your family members and friends and others, and just self-quarantine yourself. If we work together collectively, then the sooner we can come out of this situation. I was on a conference call yesterday with Dr. Peter Hotez, who's a leading epidemiologist at Baylor, and what he indicated is that he felt that the peak for the state of Texas, the peak in his view, would come somewhere around May the 2nd, right up in that time period, assuming everyone participates and engages in social discipline, distancing, and discipline as well. But he thought the peak was to be somewhere around May the 2nd. So I fully anticipate that the numbers will continue to rise. I don't see that as an alarming deal, because it will help us to do the tracing and then the isolation where needed. So let me just say that. In terms of our first responders, as of this morning, this number is subject to change, there were 8 firefighters who had tested positively, and then 12 police officers that tested positively, and 18 City of Houston municipal workers. Sometimes we forget about the municipal workers, but I want to highlight 18 City of Houston municipal workers, all of them, all of them on the front line. And again, I want to thank them for their services. As you know, the Stay Home, Work Safe order was extended through April the 30th. It lines up with the President's social distancing order, which was extended to April 30th, and it lines up with the Governor's order that was extended through April the 30th. And then let me just say this: I want to thank the faith-based institutions and organizations for working with us, and I'm going to ask that they continue to work with us, and that is doing their services online. I'm going to encourage them to continue to do their services online because that's important. And the reason why I'm saying that is because all of the efforts that we're putting forth, these things are working. And I want people to know the things are working. Because when you take a look at, for example, the numbers where we are today and compare it to others, okay, they are working. And if we continue to be disciplined and engage in the practices that we have asked, washing hands, using the sanitizer, social distancing, and we're doing it collectively, then the sooner we can come out of it. And the goal, quite frankly, is to flatten the curve such that our health care delivery system can handle whoever needs to go to the hospital or eventually need a hospital bed or ICU bed, that our health care delivery system can handle that. And based on what the CEOs of a couple of the hospitals were saying yesterday, Dr. Glotman in particular from the Baylor College of Medicine was saying, is that based on where we are today, what he's saying in the city of Houston, we can handle it if we continue to do what we have been doing. So I want to say to Houstonians and all of you who are here today, and you say it to other people, what we are doing is working. It is working. And we just have to continue to do it. And I know it's painful, and a lot of people are making some tremendous sacrifices, but let's continue to work together, and I think we'll come out of it a lot sooner. This is April 1st, which means there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be, rent is due, mortgage is due, and going to ask our financial institutions and landlords and others, apartment owners, to work with our tenants and residents and others to work with them. Same thing with the businesses who are hurting right now. Financial institutions and others who hold notes, work with businesses who are closed. Revenue streams have been significantly impacted, not because of them, but because everyone is trying to combat this virus. So we all have to work together to make this work. There's a lot of stress that's taking place out here. And so I'm going to ask, whoever's holding the note on somebody, whatever it may be, please work with them. Please work with them. If you're holding the note on a business, a small business, a medium-sized business, and you know that they have been affected, especially if they're not an essential business, please work with them, please work with them. Individuals, husbands and mothers and parents, please work with them, okay? Work with them. And then as we move forward, then we can all work together to assist one another. And the governor's order extended the closing of schools until May the 4th on that as well. So that's the point that I wanted to stress as it relates to where we are. And then I'm going to go to some of the council members, but I do want to make this note too as well, because I don't want to forget, got coronavirus COVID 40 on one end, the big C. The other big C for today is the census. Okay? So while people are at home, okay, and kids are learning how to do online, they're working online, parents, you know, if you don't know how to work that computer, ask your kids to take that census paper that you got in the mail with your code and go online and fill out the census. It will take you 2 to 3 minutes and you will be done. So do the census today. While you at home, you know, the census today, April the 1st, today. Please do it today. Please get it in today. So if you will do the census, because that in the future will help us to bring back the dollars that we need in our respective city. And then I don't want to forget this, because this is April 1st. You do not need to go rush the stores today, you know, because there are a lot of people who may be getting various checks and things today. You don't have to rush the stores, okay? The supply is there. It's not going to run out. And then let me encourage all of the stores, if you are in business, okay, if you're an essential business employer, or if you're in business, social distancing is still required for you and for those employees, okay? So everyone needs to do that. I saw one caption where one of the, even one of the stores was saying, well, we're providing the service, so, you know, we're here. I got that, but please, social distancing at the same time. Okay, let me stop. First one on the list, Councilmember Travis.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I appreciate all your good comments there. I'd actually like to follow up on what you just said and what we talked about yesterday about good businesses. Good businesses know they're good customers. And, you know, if you want that business to stay in business, you need to frequent that place. But if you're a business and you want those customers to come back, you need to work with those customers. Last week, we talked about employers and employees. They're one and the same. You can't have an employee without an employer. Same thing here. You can't have a business without a customer. So I would urge all these businesses to think through not just their short-term issues, but their long-term issues, and work with their customers to make sure that we all stay viable. I'd also like to follow up on your issue about hoarding. I find that when I go to certain stores in my neighborhood that there's a lot of things that you wouldn't expect to be out that are out. I don't know why that is, but I do know if I was a store manager, I would be walking around my store right now, because you can see those things that are still on the shelves that nobody wants under any circumstance. But when you go to other areas and you go to smaller shops, and frequent these smaller shops. The other day I was at a 99-cent store and they had bleach. You can't find that at H-E-B except like every couple hours, and H-E-B does a good job stocking it. But if you want to find bleach or toilet paper, this 99-cent store had it. I go to El Phoenician. It's a really good store. It was the big ones out on Westheimer. There's a Japanese supermarket. I get all my sushi there. Tons of fresh fish there. Everything's stocked, because nobody knows about these and they don't normally frequent them, and that's where we should go. So it takes the pressure off the other places. But last but not least, I'd like to bring up an issue, and I'm hoping you can help us with it, because it causes me some grave concern, and it looks like it has caused our police chief and our HPOU concern. If you could talk to the county judge and talk to her about her order of releasing 1,000 nonviolent criminals onto the street, it would probably go a long way to helping our HPOU, which is already tasked. Apparently, burglaries are already at 19%, according to Chief Acevedo. And if we are allowing these people back on the street, those burglaries will go up more, which means our police officers will have to work harder, which means they'll become into more contact and end up having a higher COVID-19 rate. And the state's not letting out their offenders, violent or non-violent. The state's not doing that. TJC is not doing that. So it seems like our county is the one that wants to do this. And I just wish somebody would explain it's not the unintended consequences, because these are actually consequences that anybody can foresee. The more we put them out, the more they will continue. These aren't people that had a one-off where they just got caught taking a candy bar from a store. These are people with long rap sheets. And they might be in right now for a current nonviolent offense, but on their rap sheet, there are violent offenses. It's interesting that she's not releasing the names of the people she's releasing, although the people who know about this know who some of those criminals are. And of course, our police officers will be seeing them again on the street probably very shortly. And you'll be hearing nothing but news about that. So, Mayor, if you could do us a favor, and I know you know the judge better than I do, but if you could explain to her what she's doing to tax the system, it would go a long way, because I just don't think we can have more of this happening. And I'll leave it at that. I'm very concerned about our people being preyed upon by a certain element of society that is in jail for a reason, and we're letting them out for all the wrong reasons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kamen.
Thank you, Mayor. You'd reference, I just had a quick question. You had referenced the increase in some municipal employee cases that have been positive now. I think you said, was it 18? 18. And again, thank you for your remarks, because we all know around this horseshoe that our city employees are that other level of the front line in the response right now. Have those employees come from various departments? Is it concentrated in one? Are we looking at additional measures that we can take to make sure that as we continue to work and make sure that we're providing services for the people of Houston, that we're doing everything we can?
And the answer is yes. We're taking measures. Many of our employees are telecommuting where possible. Some of our employees, however, are having to be out there. I will tell you, in most of the departments, in fact, in all of them, there may be like one, with the exception of one department, where they're out there having to service, make sure that, people are home. So you got to make sure that things are taking place to support people who are at home. And in a general sense, let me just say that we often overlook sometimes and forget about our public works employees. The public work employees are the ones who support police, fire, and everything else. You cannot shut down the public work department. And these are employees who are out there. So with respect to all of the other departments, it may just be one. There's only one department where you have more than one, if that gives you a sense. And I don't want to get too specific, because, you don't want to identify employees and HIPAA and all of that. But I do want to give a special, well, all of our employees, but for our public work employees and our solid waste employees, okay? You cannot shut down the solid waste department. You just cannot, okay? Okay? And our public works and solid waste workers in those departments, they are out there, and so I do want to acknowledge them and thank them, and then all of our municipal employees, because they deserve a special thanks. Councilmember Cisneros.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to go back to the point you were talking about, that today is rent due date for many people, and there was a speaker, a very eloquent speaker, who came to public session yesterday who spoke to that, and saying that, that service workers who don't really have other options or safety nets, that they're terrified of what this is going to throw them into, evictions and bad credit scores, and things that will affect them for a very long time. And one of the things he said that really resonated with me, and I've heard it, just since the beginning of this, but if federal and state government are not doing enough, local government needs to step up. And I know we know that, and that's happening across the nation, is where cities and counties are having to really step in where we've been let down by leaders at higher levels. And I know, that the city of Houston we're doing a lot, and this is just some of it, but, with our own testing sites, with our own food distribution sites, at 50 parks right now, and that needs to grow. putting a hold on water disconnections, tax deferrals for, at the airports on the concessionaires and rental car companies and airlines. To get back to the point of what else can we do, yesterday I became aware that in Oakland, it said that Oakland passed a law that bans evictions and freezes some rents until May 31st, and that the moratorium includes both residential and commercial tenants. That's really interesting. I don't know how they're able to do that. Does it cost something that the city pays, or is it just agreements that were able to be worked out with across the board? I think it's interesting, and I think it challenges us to see what more we can do.
And certainly, I don't think we're in a position to do that. We're looking at various ways where we can help individuals as well as small and medium-sized businesses as well. But as we all know from the city of Houston, you all know, we are cash-strapped.
Right.
Okay. And this is one of those special moments where we're asking people to kind of work together. I mean, we're all connected. Mm-hmm. Eventually, we're going to come out of all of this. And, apartments need tenants, tenants need apartments. I appreciated what Councilmember Pollard said, and I repeated it in a press conference. You pay the first and the last rent. If apartment owners take the last rent and apply it to this month, that can ease the load. Okay? So there are ways to be creative and innovative that will benefit both ends. It has to be a win-win and not a win-lose. Mm-hmm. So this is one of those times where it does require shared sacrifice, at least for the next month or two. Okay, Councilmember Plummer.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this may be a good opportunity to look into telemedicine a little bit heavier. I know we talked about Ethan. We're incredibly fortunate to have that as an opportunity for us. I wanted to ask you, Mayor, what are your thoughts about possibly looking into an ordinance to where we can use Ethan and with telehealth, especially with the CARES Act allowing us to draw down some funds to allow to put whatever is necessary in place to assist us with defraying some of those costs. Because I know from IT perspective, there's some things that we need to do for billing. But what is that something that the city would consider, using at this moment in time?
If you can provide me with something that we can consider, sure. Anything that we can utilize that the CARES Act or would allow us to do and it's reimbursable, and that will meet the needs of the people in the city, I'm very much open.
Definitely, because that would be a revenue stream for us as well, and it would also take a lot of the pressure off of our fire department.
If you can just shoot me something.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Alcorn.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Cisneros, for your comments about rent being due and what other cities are doing. I know Austin was mentioned yesterday. It wasn't a rent freeze, but rather a pushback, kind of like we're doing at the county level on evictions. Once a landlord is telling somebody they'll be evicted, they get a grace period of 60 days. But on the flip side, I mean, if you're going to help a renter, you also have to help the landlord and the small business, because they also have bills to pay and people who work for them. I noticed also in Austin, they are using HUD 108 funds to offer bridge loans to small businesses and landlords until they get their stimulus funds from the federal government, since there's going to be a time lag. So that's something we might want to look at if we have available Section 108 HUD funds to help small businesses and landlords, and then they can push that, off onto the renters.
Thank you, and I'll pass that on to Andy Eakin as well as to Tom McCaslin, because they're over those Section 108 dollars. Okay, Councilmember Evans Shabazz.
Thank you, Mayor. And I believe I sent you this suggestion, well, some of it. If you could urge the store managers to exercise their discretion to allow child care providers who are taking care of essential workers' children and senior facilities to go past the spending limits. Because what's happening, they're having to go from store to store to store, and then there's some purchasing authority attached to that they all may not be able to do. And if they can't do that, maybe they can have some specified hours that these facilities could come in so that it won't create a disturbance when the other customers see them going above the limit. So if that would be something that you could look into.
I got that message from you in conversation.
Yes.
We're in conversation with
Okay, cool.
some stores.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor. This is not the time to send mixed messages in regards to our different parts of our government, in regards to the county and the city. I know that the county judge has stated that she is looking at releasing 1,000 nonviolent criminals. And when it's stated that they're not willing to release a list of these names, it's not true. It was stated in the news yesterday that names will be released to the Sheriff's Department, so that way they can review these names to see if these individuals should be released. So that right there was not correct. Again, I was a detention officer at the county jail. You have pods where you have 20 to 30 inmates sleeping next to each other. You have detention officers and county deputies that go into these pods 3 times a day. 3 times a day to make sure they don't have any weapons, to make sure all the procedures are being followed. So it's not just these inmates that could get sick, it's these deputies and detention officers that will get sick as well and take it home to their families. So we need to make sure and be careful what we say, because we do not need to be sending mixed messages at a time like this. Another issue, Mayor, and I'm hoping this is something that can be addressed with the news conference. I know the county judge does speak in Spanish, but there is the fear out there in the undocumented community in regards to fear of being, if the ICE is out there picking up undocumented individuals. We need to make sure that everyone is aware that we need to all be careful. We need to all work together to make sure that this virus is not transmitted. And they do not need that fear. If anything has shown us in regards to this virus is that we're all in this together. We're all in this together. And there's no time for this fear. I don't know if the feds have mentioned to the cities that ICE is not going to be deporting at this time. I don't know what the situation is that on that, Mayor. If you know of any of that, if you can please share that. But there's that fear out in the undocumented community of deportation of ICE still out there, which in the long run will affect everyone.
And let me also just follow up on that. One thing about this virus, it does not care. This virus doesn't care what language you speak, what your faith is, ethnicity, sexual orientation, social economic status, whether you're documented or undocumented, it does not matter. And this is not the time for us to be even focus on those issues. We want everybody, for example, tested. If you're not feeling well, we want you tested. Because if you're living in the city of Houston, you're in the city of Houston, you can certainly impact someone else. Documented, undocumented, doesn't matter. So whatever the services that are, they're made available. We want people to utilize them. We don't want people to be fearful or paralyzed in their status because they feel as though ICE is coming to deport them. I will have that conversation with ICE to just get clarification so we can speak directly to the people in the city of Houston across the board. And in fact, I'll do it today and we'll follow up today. Okay? Councilmember Kubash.
Mayor, your comments concerning the fact that we are doing the right thing, we are reducing it, we need to hear that. I need to hear you say that. And I think that the people in press conference, you need to encourage us that what we have done is working so that we can be more encouraged, because that encourages me when you say that. So I just want to encourage you to keep saying it, because we need to hear that. Thank you.
And that's and something I thought about it, and that came out on yesterday, and I think it was Dr. Glotzman from Baylor who responded to a question about whether or not it's working, and his response was, let me tell you what you are not seeing and hearing in the city of Houston, okay? You are not seeing the numbers like in other major cities. We're the fourth largest city in the United States. A lot of conversation about New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, okay? We're number 4. And if you look at our numbers today, and again, they're going to rise, but it's 377. And we've been in this battle, in large part, it seemed like most of March, okay? But it's 377. And you look at the region, okay? You're not hearing the fear from our hospital delivery system about ICU beds being overrun, or beds being overrun. You're not hearing that, okay? And the goal has always been to spread these cases out over an extended period of time so that the healthcare delivery system is not overwhelmed. So it's going to rise, but we just want to spread it out. So to hear, we had 100 more cases today. Okay, we can manage that. Or even 150 a day. We can manage that if it's over an extended period of time. So when you look at the city of Houston and you see the numbers, yes, the numbers are going to rise. But you're not hearing we're needing more ventilators and all of those type of things. You're not hearing that. Now, of course, what that means is that we have to keep doing what we are doing and doing more of it. And that's why, for example, I think it was Councilmember Pollard and some others who sent me about people congregating on the basketball courts. And yesterday, we started taking down the rims because we wanted to let people know this is serious, y'all, and you can get it. And that's why the park personnel, even though they're not doing a lot of the community-type activities that they normally would do, our Parks and Rec, they have been repositioned to take a look and monitor the park activity. We haven't closed down the parks, but you're going to see more Parks and Rec employees, staff, going to the parks, and where we are not seeing the social distancing, we're going to be saying no. They're too full, too crowded. You're not doing social distancing, go home. So we're doing more of that because we want everyone to comply. And then what people need to bear in mind, the largest percentage of confirmed cases in the city of Houston is between the ages of 20 and 60. Not above 60. 20 to 60. And that 30 to 40 range group, they are the ones where the cases are coming back positive more so. It's in that group. Now, the older population, let's say 70 above, their systems, they're more underlying medical conditions, so they can't fight it off as easily. So for the 4 deaths that we have had in the city of Houston, most of them have been 70 and above because they're just are not able to fight it off. But in terms of the confirmed cases, that's in that younger group. And then if the younger group is not careful, they're taking it to the mom, dad, and their grandparents. So that's a long explanation, but Councilmember Kubash, to you and to other people in the city of Houston, yes, what we are doing in the city of Houston, in the surrounding region, because it's a regional thing. It's not just Houston. It's Fort Bend. It's Galveston, Montgomery County, Brazoria, Chambers, Liberty. What we are doing collectively is working. We just have to keep doing it for the next 30 days. Councilmember Cisneros.
I think that's an extremely important point, when you were talking earlier about the comments that Dr. Glockman had said that the city can handle it as long as we're doing what we're doing. That's the first time I had heard that. I mean, nationally, we hear a different story, and you're right, we haven't heard that, the hospitals are overrun or that there's a shortage of ventilators, but I just assumed that it was coming, that it was inevitable that it was coming, and that's a little bit of very good news to hear that if we can continue on as we are, and with the collaboration of not just people in Houston, but our neighbors, that actually there is an ability to manage it in a way that's not like the other cities that are really struggling.
Okay.
One other thing is, if that changes, will you share that with us too? Because, I mean, it's, if you hear that actually that the projections, are not looking good anymore, I mean, because this is a bit of good hope, and I think, people need to know that, but we don't want to rely on that if it changes and it's starting to not look that way.
If it changes, we'll let you know. But one thing we do know is that if we do not engage in the social distancing and the practices that we're taking, it can easily get far worse. And so if people assume, okay, as one person told me the other day, Mayor, our numbers are not that big. Yeah, I understand that. But the numbers of the other cities were not that big at the very beginning either. And then they just went straight up. So we just have to do the right things. But as you all can imagine, yes, I look at and having meetings 2 and 3 times a day, and in the evenings, and I certainly will let you know. I think one thing is people can handle the truth. You just got to tell them the truth. Whatever the truth is, you just got to tell them the truth. People can handle that, and I subscribe to that view. I'd rather tell you than not tell you, and then we'll deal with it accordingly. Okay? But at the same time, a healthy mind can produce a healthy body, and healthy body, healthy mind. They all go hand in hand. Positive attitude can fight off a whole lot of stuff. And in the end, we do what we can do, our faith will carry us the rest of the way. Okay? We do our part, and again, this is no disrespect to anybody in their religion. Okay? But we do our part, God will do the rest. Okay? And we'll just say amen and keep going. All right, that's it on that. And
if you don't have anything else in your mayor's report, then we move to consent agenda.
There's nothing else in the mayor's report, and now we're going to move to the consent agenda. Madam Secretary, over there in the corner, dressed in orange.
Under the miscellaneous category, item 1 has been removed for separate consideration. We need a motion for items 2 and 3.
Then moved in second on 2 and 3. Discussion? In favor, opposed, granted.
Except work, item 4, need a motion.
Moved in second on item 4. Discussion? In favor, opposed, granted.
Under the purchasing and tabulation of bids category, item 5, 6, and 7, need a motion for items 5 and 6. And item 7 is an ordinance.
On 5 and 6, there's a motion by Vice Mayor Pro Tem Tatum and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Martin on 5 and 6. Discussion on 5 and 6, discussion, in favor, opposed, granted. On 7?
Is an ordinance.
It's an ordinance. It is discussion on 7, discussion, in favor, opposed, granted on 7.
Since your list was distributed, there's been a couple of changes. Item 16 is not in, so we have 2 items not in. That's 16 and 27. They are not in and will be received if they are, will be considered if they are received before the end of the meeting. Items 25, 26, and 42 have been pulled and will not be considered. Items removed for separate consideration are 9 through 15, 21, 24, 29 through 32, 43, and 44. Need a vote on the balance.
Discussion, discussion, in favor, opposed, granted.
That completes the consent. On non-consent, Item 1 needs a motion.
We're on item 1. Moved and seconded on item 1. Discussion? Discussion? In favor? Opposed? Granted on item 1.
Item 9 is an ordinance.
We're on item 9. Discussion on item 9. Discussion on 9. Discussion? In favor? Opposed? Granted on 9.
Item 10 is an ordinance.
We're on item 10. Discussion on 10. Discussion on 10. In favor? Opposed? Granted on 10.
Item 11 is an ordinance.
We're on item 11. Councilmember Kubash on item 11.
Mayor, items 11 and 12 deal with hotels that we're going to be placing people in for that may have come in contact with this virus. I was wondering why we haven't considered perhaps using the Hilton Americas. Has that been, is there some reason why we're not using our own hotel?
Yeah, it came up for discussion. Hilton Americas is very, very big. There are over 1,000 rooms there. And while their occupancy is very low, they're taking the opportunity, Houston First, to do the additional renovation repairs that they need to do at Hilton Americas. So they're going to be doing some other things. And it will be much more costly to operate. The way this agreement is being worked out, we are leasing these 2 hotels, and then we'll work, and this is for the beds. It's a total of like 180. And then we are working with the county to take, they will be responsible for like the ancillary services that will be provided, the food, security, everything else.
Medical?
Yes, because the cost of each, the full cost of each one of these rooms is about $200 a day. And so we're providing, we're assuming the cost for leasing the beds, and the county will work on assuming the cost for all of the ancillary services that will be needed.
And what about our firefighters right now are here downtown?
There's a third hotel that we're also working with, and that's the, I hate to mention these hotels, the names, because they are there.
Don't.
There's a third hotel that firefighters and police officers are using now at the same rate as these 2 right here.
And the same type of services?
And they can continue to utilize that hotel to the extent they so desire, but this also provides us with added capacity in case we need it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Councilmember Peck.
Councilmember Pack.
Thank you, Mayor. I had some questions. I think you answered most of the questions that I had. One other question that I have, though, is these 2 hotels, are we housing homeless individuals and first responders together? I'm just concerned about that as far as a case management perspective, with the needs being very different for the different populations, to make sure that nothing falls through the hoops with the county on that.
Yeah, what we wanted to do is to bring online and make available enough hotel beds in case we need it, anticipating, for example, any sort of surge. And so with these 2 and with the other, there are 3 hotels. Currently, for example, police and fire are using the 3rd hotel, but they can also utilize these 2 as well. With respect to the homeless population, they can also use these hotels. And you always want to group them. So there are 2 hotels here. Homeless population can be in one. First responders, and let me just not say police and fire, municipal employees as well, who either in their pre-testing or post-testing need to be quarantined and can't do it at their respective homes, they can utilize these hotels as well. So there are 2, really there are 3. Right now, police and fire are utilizing a 3rd one. That is what I'm being told is their preferred. They want to continue to do that, and they can. The same rate applies. Cost applies.
Thank you.
I hope that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Knox.
Councilmember Knox.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 questions. First of all, we have a 3rd hotel. Evidently, we're doing an ordinance on these 2.
There's another one coming.
And we're coming up with the next, okay, I'm gonna
Yes.
but we've already contracted with them.
Verbal understanding.
A verbal understanding, okay. My second question then is, are we paying for the beds whether they're used or not? Are we paying for them as needed?
No, this is a 3-month deal, and we are assuming we are taking on that capacity right now.
I get, but again, my question is, are we paying for the beds on a daily basis?
No.
Whether we use them or not, or
Yes.
just in the case that we're using them?
We are paying for them whether we utilize them or not. They are now become within our inventory at
Okay.
a flat rate.
So if nobody needs them, we're still paying for these number of beds?
That's correct.
Okay.
But people are needing them now.
I know, but I don't think we have that many that we need right this minute. I'm just curious, normally when we reserve rooms, when you reserve a room, you pay for them when you use them.
Right.
Not when you, if you never use. If we do use them and we need them, that's fine. But I'm just, we've got some serious issues coming up with our budget, and I'm just concerned that we are careful about how we're spending that money.
Well, this crisis is quite a bit different than any others, and you can't wait. You have to bring into your inventory what you need right now, such that when you may need it, and the surge can be, we're being, very optimistic, and things are kind of moving along right now, but it can easily just go up. And you need that supply available in your inventory right now.
Well, I get that we want to reserve the rooms. I'm just not sure that we want to pay for them if we're not using them.
Well, most of these dollars right here that we're talking about will probably be all reimbursable.
Okay. Thank you for answering my question.
Sure.
Councilman Alcorn?
Councilmember Alcoin.
That was my question about the reimbursable. These will be part of, I'm assuming, the
Oh,
$5
good.
million we received last week from CDC, that
Yeah.
bucket of money?
Yes, we're
Do you
trying.
know if that pot of money has a match, a local match? The
That
way-
I don't know, but I'll find out. I
Okay.
think it's grant.
Okay,
I
I
think
think
it's
just
just
the
grant.
FEMA money maybe has the match.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And all of these items, as it relates to COVID-19, are being put in a special category, just like the Harvey dollars. So all of these dollars are being put in that bucket. At the same time, in talking with a number of other mayors, for example, with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, just for your edification, we are talking with Congress in terms of another bill that will assist cities, municipalities on loss of revenue, like with sales tax. And we're hoping that that bill can be introduced this month. And most of the mayors are working on that across the board because we all find ourselves in the same position. And I would say to Vice Mayor Pro Tem Kester Tatum, since you're with the Texas Municipal League, would ask for your support in talking with the other cities in doing the same.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then Councilmember Plummer, I know you're on the National League of Cities. That would be another thing that would ask that you join in pushing as well. Okay. Okay. Councilmember Kubash.
Mayor, are these people that were city employees that are using these facilities, do they already have the virus, or are they quarantining because they were exposed to the virus?
Two things. There are some who are quarantined waiting to be either tested or they were around someone who was suspected of having the virus. So, for example, with some of our first responders, they are quarantined because they may have been exposed to someone, and it's uncertain as to whether or not, that police officer, that firefighter has it. And they don't want to go home and take that to their families, and we got that.
So if they have the virus, are they going to be able to stay there without going to the hospital and still
Yes.
receive medical treatment there?
Yes,
Unless it gets serious?
That's the second step. If they are then tested, and let's say go to the hospital and then need to come out, then they would go.
Well, that's very wise because they're not exposing their children and
Right.
their families and others to it. Thank you very much.
And then a part of this is providing all of the necessary support services that they need, the food and the medical attention. Councilmember Pollard.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the beds in the hotels, I think we all need to be mindful that we want to be proactive and not reactive. This is a fluid situation. Things change by the day. And so we don't want to be in a position where we're behind the eight ball and trying to figure out what we're going to do next, but to have things in place now in anticipation for what we expect. And so I think it's smart to have this inventory ready to go, regardless if we're using it or not, because there's a high likelihood that we will be, and we don't want to be in a position that we're trying to find something and it's not available when we can get it now. So let's be mindful to stay proactive and not reactive. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Gallegos.
Councilman Gallegos.
Thank you, and I totally agree with Councilmember Pollard in regards to this. This is not a hurricane. This is not something that we're normally used to in the sense of how we handle it. It's something new, something that we're not aware of. So we need to make sure that whatever we do, we're being smart about it. So regarding all these rooms, Mayor, how many are actually going to be allocated for the homeless?
We don't know yet. I would tell you, for example, like the third hotel that police and fire are currently using, that's being used for responders who are asymptomatic but have been exposed. And then the other hotels will be used for people who have been diagnosed positive, but literally we don't know. There may be a need, for example, to enter into other agreements, depending on what happens on the ground. But we are doing these two because you can separate the two different populations, for example, right now. And so homeless can be in one, other city employees can certainly be in another.
Because my concern is that now supposedly that the test is being changed in regards to now you're going to get the results quicker.
Right.
So therefore, if they're testing the homeless and you're getting these results quicker, and if they are tested positive, then yes, we'll need something or a place for them to go to, and that way they can be quarantined. I've heard of an instance where a homeless individual was tested, and it took several days to get the results back. By that time, he was already out in the public again.
Well, that story was not true.
Not true? Okay.
What happened, he was in the St. Joseph's Hospital, and then one of our homeless shelters said that they could place him in a secure area, a room for him, and so he was taken from the St. Joseph to that homeless shelter.
Mm-hmm. But now with the way these tests are changing, where you're going to get the results quicker,
Yes.
we're going to need a place for these individuals so that way they can be quarantined
Right.
And not be out in the public. And with that said, are there any plans to have a low barrier shelter for the homeless so that way they can actually have a place to be at instead of just roaming the city?
Yeah. If, for example, they are tested positively, they will be placed in one of these areas where we can kind of monitor and contain.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you don't want people, you want to place some people someplace and then they can leave and just go about. That's why part of this arrangement with the county is the security and everything that we need to make sure that people don't just go wandering about. That's a part of this arrangement. These facilities can be used by the city as well as by the county. And I would tell you, there have been more than 3,000 hotel beds that have been offered to the city of Houston, okay, for a lease arrangement. And this template creates a template for everybody at the same price, just in case additional space or rooms are needed, so we can ramp up even more. This is just the first kind of initial round. But for our homeless population, the intent would be if somebody is being tested, and while we're waiting on the results, or if they're tested positively, to place them in one of these hotels and keep them there.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the plan is not to send anybody else out. The other plan is we're talking about the homeless, for example, like with our shelters, current shelters. The plan now is to spread them out in our shelters so that they can engage in social distancing. So we are talking with faith-based institutions. For example, there are churches right now that are not having churches. And even, for example, one of the pastors has already offered his church and his facilities for homeless to take them from some of the shelters to spread them out a little bit more so we can have that social distancing. So we're working on that. But we do not want even the homeless individuals to be wandering about because that just won't work. And that's why the cost of this room is about $200 a day, because you want to place them there and you want to keep them there.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Martin, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work by Mr. Andy Icken and Mr. Mark Eichenbaum, who put this together. It gives us the ability to segregate the population a little bit and keep our first responders and city employees in a separate segregated hotel. Also, if you look at your backup, you'll see the rate that we're paying, and the rate is extremely inexpensive. So I don't think there's a hotel chain in the city that's going to take a population of effective COVID-19 folks and have the general population go to the same hotel. I think segregating them and getting these 3 hotels to do that with the population group makes a lot of sense. And I know these 2 gentlemen and their teams worked enormously long days to get this done. And also to a little bit to Councilmember Gallegos' question, I know Mr. Icken is working on options for additional shelters for the homeless population that isn't affected by COVID-19. So it takes a while for these things to come through, but I know they're working hard to get that done. And my hat's off to them because I've seen firsthand what they're doing, and they're doing an excellent job with it. So thank you.
The other thing that I just thought of, just bear in mind, hotels are not going to let you lease just a few of their rooms and then provide rooms for the regular, and you don't want to do that anyway. You know, they're not, I mean, just think about it. They're not going to say, okay, Mayor, how many rooms are you wanting and what are they for? And then right next door is going to be some, it's either all or none. The good, I won't say the good news, it's not the good news. But everybody is hurting. The hotel industry is hurting. And this is one way of us working together in a win-win situation, okay? They're needing the occupancy. That's why we're able to get a pretty good rate. So they are, you know, they are benefiting, we're benefiting, and it's a win-win. Councilmember Plummer.
Yes, and it's a little bit not directly related to the hotel situation, but are we doing anything legally with the price gouging that's happening? Is there
Yes.
anything in place? Can we make sure the public knows that that's not appropriate and that there will be some type of legal action, if any, is
There are
possible?
two places people can turn to, the State Attorney General. He's got his force that's working, and also with the Harris County District Attorney's Office on price gouging.
And within the city of Houston, in our procurement department, are they also watching for
Yes.
for numbers coming in? They're too high? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we're getting to the point of the numbers get too high. Where we can, we shift and we go someplace else.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Travis.
Councilmember Travis, back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, you may have already mentioned this, and so I apologize because I didn't hear it, but with regards to these hotels, obviously there'll be cleaning crews going in and cleaning up these rooms once they're occupied. Are these cleaning crews being trained in the necessary manners and have the right protections? Are we I guess what I'm saying is, are we ensuring that this cleaning crews, that the hotel employees will have the right tools and the training so as not to infect themselves or co-contaminate other rooms during the process?
The answer is yes. And then one of the teams, for example, that the county is working with, they are quite familiar with disaster recovery and things of this nature.
All right, thank you.
Yes. Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Any other discussion on item 11? Discussion. In favor? Opposed? Granted.
Item 12 is an ordinance.
And before we, just bear in mind that there's going to be a technical correction next week on 11, because the price on here is 109, it should be 116,400. So you're going to see it next week to make that technical correction. I just wanted to point that out. Okay. Number 12.
Item 12 is an ordinance.
Discussion on item 12. Discussion. In favor? Opposed? Granted on item 12.
Items 13, 14, and 15 are ordinances. Item 13 needs a vote.
Item 13. Discussion on item 13. Discussion on 13. Discussion. In favor? Opposed? Granted on 13.
Item 14.
Item 14. Councilmember Davis, are you here to make a presentation? Item 14. Discussion on 14. In favor, opposed, granted on 14.
Item 15 is an ordinance.
On item 15. Discussion on 15.
15? After.
Discussion on 15.
After.
In favor, opposed, granted. Councilmember Jairus Davis for his presentation on 15.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for approving these. We've been waiting on these for a while, and you know, as we look at the housing market, we understand that we're going to face some hard times, and this is going to allow us to hit that gap. There's a need. There's a huge need in affordable housing in this area, and it's not going to. I don't think it's going to plummet that much within the next few months, but you know, they're going to have people that actually need more houses like this, and so we're getting people out of bad homes into good homes. And we're going to provide another service for the City of Houston as we move forward. So I want to thank our colleagues for passing 13, 14, and 15, and also I want to thank the Land Bank for their hard work, and wish they would continue the good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item.
Item 21 is an ordinance.
We're on item 21. Councilmember Davis on 21.
I'm tagged 21, sir.
21 is being tagged by Councilmember Davis.
Item 24 is an ordinance.
We're on item 24. Discussion on 24. Discussion. In favor, opposed, granted on 24.
Item 29 is an ordinance.
We're on item 29. Discussion on 20. Councilmember Peck on 29.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight this one because Jeff Weatherford worked with us on Eisenhower High School for the school zone, and so I just wanted to share my appreciation for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on 29? In favor, opposed, granted on 29.
Item 30 is an ordinance.
We're on item. Councilmember Knox on item 30.
Thank you, Mayor. This is occasionally we get a good success, and I think this is one of those.
Occasionally.
Occasionally. We do. I've been after this for a long time, ever since my first election, about separating these funds so that people can clearly see and have a transparent view of what we're doing with their money. And so thank you for getting this done finally. After all this time, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, I don't know if that was. It sound like you threw some shade. That was a kiss and a slap. Councilman Alcorn.
Thank you. Yes, this is a really good thing that's been a long time coming. Forever, people think the Build Houston Forward program, Rebuild Houston program is just the drainage fee, so this will go a long way in better communicating with our constituents about the funds.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, any other discussion? Discussion. In favor, opposed, granted.
Item 31 is an ordinance.
On item 31, discussion on 31. Discussion. Councilmember Knox.
Just for the benefit of the public, what we're doing here on number 31 is actually moving the money into the various funds. So the first vote was about establishing the funds, and now we're actually moving them into the correct funding category. Is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Consistent with the policy of this administration over the last 4+ years. Any other discussion on item 31? In favor, opposed, granted on 31.
Item 32 is an ordinance.
Councilman Alcorn on 32.
Thank you, Mayor. Another item that's been a long time coming and a great example of city-county cooperation with them taking over the open channels and the city's expertise in enclosed drainage. So a great measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Yes, and I ditto those comments, and I'd like to thank flood czar Stephen Costello, who's sitting in the audience, for being the proactive leader on this. So thank you very much, Stephen.
Any other discussion on item 32? In favor, opposed, granted on 32.
Item 43 is an ordinance. In the vote.
We're on item 43. Discussion, Councilmember Pollard on 43.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Director Haddock and Mr. Gary Norman for working with me on this one. This item is to create and construct a regional lift station in District J off of Fountain View. Not only will this development help with our city's water flow, but it will also assist a lot of our quality of life issues as well. the property that's vacant at the moment has been a real problem area for us. There's been a lot of trespassing, loitering. HPD gets called out there all the time to respond to illegal drug activity, so the construction of this regional lift station will alleviate even a lot of those issues, so I'm glad to see it happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on item 43? In favor? Opposed? Granted on 43.
Item 44 is an ordinance.
Well, on item 44, discussion on 44. Discussion. In favor? Opposed? Granted on 44.
And item 27 has been received, so item 27 is an ordinance, just need a vote.
Hold on one second. We're turning to item 27. Okay, on item 27, discussion on 27. On 27. In favor? Opposed? Granted on 27.
This completes the items on the agenda.
What's this one?
I don't have.
49?
Let me find it.
49 is the budget. All in favor? In
Oh.
favor? Opposed? Granted on the budget.
Item 49 is a motion.
We're on item 49. This is the setting a hearing.
Set a hearing
Of
for
public date.
April 8th.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. In favor? Opposed? Granted.
Who made that motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Davis, followed by Vice Mayor Pro Tem. Okay. All right. Today we're on the pop-off. We're going to start with Councilmember Evans Shabazz. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I took the opportunity on Friday to go out to the United Memorial Medical Center to see the new wing that they have, and they are doing such a fabulous job. That new wing is so prepared. And Dr. Barone, who's the medical chief officer, and Mr. Syed, who is the CEO, they just took me all around, and I was very, very pleased with what I saw. And also, of course, I did mention it on yesterday, we are very adamant about the census, and of course, District D is the leader in the responses right now. So I challenge any of my colleagues to bring on more people so that we can get this done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Alcorn.
Oh, one other thing,
One
Mayor.
second, Councilman.
One other thing, Mayor. I forgot to mention that they are going to start with the mobile testing to the seniors. And so I'm trying to get a timeline on that. And so those of you that are interested in that information, I'll make sure that you get it as well, or the mayor will, to make sure that, because all the seniors can't get out to some of these sites, and so the mobile testing units will really be beneficial.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Alcorn.
Pass.
Councilmember Pack.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Public Works. Yesterday, there was a big pothole at Antoine and Long Point, and someone sent me the photo of it, and someone actually stuck a pole in it, I guess, to warn people, and the pole fell over. So it's a really dangerous situation. We sent it over to Monica Vasquez, and they took care of it right away. It was a water main break, and so I just wanted to say thank you to her and Public Works for taking care of that so quickly.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to acknowledge your leadership around this pandemic that's happening in the city, and I couldn't imagine sitting in your seat or your shoes at this time. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Also, with my colleagues as well, we've been information sharing and doing the very best to make sure that our residents are informed as well. So I do want to publicly acknowledge that. So last week we had our first virtual town hall meeting. Thank you, Councilmember Plummer and Alcorn, for having a staff member join with Super Neighborhood 25. Last night was Super Neighborhood 17. And then later this week will be Super Neighborhood 20. So the business of the city is continuing. People are interested in talking about more than Corona, and they're interested in what's actually happening in their neighborhood, and we're doing our very best with that. But I do want to highlight, again, the rental issue. There are some property owners within District F that were featured in the Chronicle, and I shared with some of my colleagues just about my upset around the language and the level of fear that they're creating with these renters about threatening to evict them. And I'm having a call with two major property owners today at 2 o'clock to talk to them about how they're incentivizing and working with their renters, because we really do need to communicate to our renters really what their options are effectively. And I'm just asking my colleagues to join with me to do that. And if there are property owners in your community, to have that conversation with them so you can be clear. And we're also having a conversation with the Houston Apartment Association so we can make sure that we're on one accord, very clear that we're limited in terms of what we can do as a city. These are private developments, but we, again, to Councilmember Travis's point, you know, these apartment owners need tenants, and tenants need a place to stay, particularly with census. So if we could all use the seat that we sit in to make sure that we can preserve their housing options, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Pollock.
Thank you, Mayor. I truly believe that in life everything happens for a reason, that there is a divine plan for it all. And every one of us has experienced tough times, every one of us has experienced struggles, and every one of us has experienced uncertainty. We can all look back at those times and we can all see that we always made it through, no matter what. And we're all here today as a testimony. But what makes this moment in history so unique is that we are all experiencing the uncertainty together. Every one of us has been impacted by COVID-19, and it will take each one of us working together to get through these tough times. And although we are in a crisis, we should take this time while we're at home for self-reflection. Take this time to rest and recharge. Take this time to work on that idea you never had time for before. Take this time to enjoy spending time with your family. And most importantly, don't take this time for granted. So as we endure this crisis, recognize the blessings that we still receive every day. Please continue to follow our stay home, work safe orders, and know as council members, we are out working for you so you can stay home for us. So God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kamen.
Thank you, Mayor. And I echo Councilmember Thomas's appreciation for you and your staff right now. You've been nothing but responsive, not just to the needs of my constituents, but to this city. So thank you for the continuous work. I keep reminding everyone, unlike certain other disasters, this is a marathon, and it's an extended marathon as we're seeing across the country and around the world. A few quick housekeeping items. Our Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee meeting that was scheduled for today has been postponed to next Thursday. And Mayor, thank you for having your staff and IT work with us so that we can get going on remote committee meetings. So that will be available and it will be accessible to the public next Thursday. In talking about our city employees, our Houston Public Works employees are on the front lines. So is our Parks Department right now. Right. And the meals that they're providing are critical to filling a need. And I know HISD is going to be launching again, hopefully very quickly, but whatever we can be doing to supplement. I don't know if we're considering expanding our parks reach. I think we're at 50 sites right now, but we could do more, I believe, with the waivers that the state is providing. I also just am very grateful for that, and I know you care just as much as I do about making sure that our children are taken care of. I'm grateful to our police, our fire, our OEM team that is working 7 days a week coordinating. They're around the clock. They're doing an amazing job. I also want to recognize the great work that Legacy Community Health and other community partners are doing to fill the void with the lack of testing and things of that nature. Two resources, my office, and thank you to some of the council members for working with me on this. Our district office has been compiling a spreadsheet, a one-stop shop of all the different resources that are out there, from classes and education resources that parents can be looking at, to job application opportunities, to places to donate. And one of those that I've been working on is a project called Fund and Feed that Crowdsource Rescue has just launched, and we're very grateful to all the donors and sponsors that have been involved. It's a way where we can donate meals to people in need like our seniors but we're buying them in bulk from local restaurants to make sure that we're injecting money back into the economy in a way that's supportive. So those are, again, it's called Fund and Feed, and then we also have a spreadsheet, and that's shared via social media. These are certainly solemn times, and I know we all recognize that, and they're very serious times, but I've been very moved by the fact that the entire world, there's not a single person on this planet right now that is not going through what we are going through. And I don't recall a time in history since the Great Wars where that's been the case. And that, to me, is not only significant, but it's special. And that we're, as Councilmember Gallegos said, we're all in this together, but there's an opportunity for us to be great in the face of dire circumstances. Right. And I encourage everybody to look at this as the opportunity to rise to the occasion and to continue to work together, not against each other, whether it's landlords and tenants coming together, whatever the dynamic may be, there's an opportunity to unite. And I think that that's, we should hold near and dear right now.
Thank you. Councilmember Travis.
Too many buttons. Thank you, Mayor. Last week, I talked about going to certain news sources, direct sources, and I want to reiterate that. We get too much sensationalism on media and TV, and we need to get our information directly from the source. And I would tell people, keep going to the CDC, keep going to their website, keep going to NIH, go to their website. You'll notice on the media, and things change, and they change daily. You're told one thing one day and one another. Now, partly that's because things are changing on the CDC and on the NIH. As we learn more, as more testing is done, things start to change. But know what is truly changing and know what is truly not changing. And that, again, is going to the CDC website, going to the NIH. There are other good websites out there as well, but those two are the primary sources because that's where most of the information, in fact, that's where all the information that's out there is going to be coming from. And it's nice that we have those direct sources available to us. I will tell you, if you start watching the news media, you'll go crazy. I've actually turned it off. I don't watch it anymore. Again, I get my information on the web from CDC and NIH. But I also want to bring out that I think that while this is terrible and bad and all those things that we've all said, there's always something good that comes out of everything. Number one, I've noticed that my neighborhood's becoming more like Mayberry RFD. People who used to sit in their backyards or sit inside are now on the front porches, and you wave at them. You see Aunt B, you wave at Aunt B. You see Andy, you say, hey, Andy. I used to have 10 people walk by my house at night exercising. Now I've got about 100. There are some people, I know everybody in my neighborhood, and I can tell you, these people have never walked before. I know their dogs. And I've seen new strange dogs now walking down my street. And everybody's being very nice and kind, but I also know they're going stir crazy. I've been fortunate, and I'll give you a little bright side, is I have some loquat trees in my yard. I pick 10 pounds, that's all I can eat. And I let everybody else come over and pick as much loquats as they wanted. I had 10 families come at different times picking. They brought their children with them and all that stuff, gave them something to do. I ended up with a loquat upside down cake, a loquat bread, and I've got loquat jam coming my way. So I'm telling everybody, my peaches will come due April 30th. I'm going to pick my share, and I'm going to open it up to everybody else, but I expect some peach pie once that's done. But I'm telling you, you never would have had this before if we didn't have this. And hopefully, when we're done with this, we'll find out that we came together as a community in more ways than one. And while there's the negative aspects that have come, hopefully there'll be those positive aspects that come out of it. And who's to tell what those are until we look back in hindsight. But in the meantime, get your information and your news from the direct sources as best as possible. It will keep your blood pressure down, and you won't worry so much, and you'll do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Cisneros.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things that's happening too across our city is, how this is impacting children, all of our children. And I'm really pleased to announce that a week from today, on April 8th, on Wednesday, April 8th at 2 o'clock, broadcasting live on HTV and also on Facebook. In lieu of a childhood and youth committee, we are having a presentation that will be accessible to the public. They can, call in with questions to ask and hear about what the city is doing, how the city is organized to support and take care of children. So there are 5 different categories. I will actually talk more about that next week, but I did wanted to just get it on your radar. I have distributed a flyer that each of you have at your spot, but I'm very excited about this and certainly appreciate the mayor's commitment to taking care of children in a very comprehensive way, and to Director Juliet Stepetch in the Mayor's Office of Education. So there'll be more coming out about that. We're just starting to promote it, but it will be an opportunity to be, for the public to hear what's being said and then to call in live with questions that will be answered on air, as many as we can get in half an hour. So please help us share that important information. I also wanted to address this is one of the issues is food distribution, as it relates to children. The challenges that HISD has had, and that they are temporarily shut down for distributing food as they are implementing safe practices that hadn't been in place yet. So that is very important. We want them to do a good job and to ensure everyone's safety. In the meantime, I'm really appreciative of the city's role in the Parks Department distributing food. Currently, they are just distributing a fraction of what HISD has been doing. But I think that there's a commitment. I hope there's a commitment to step it up and to do not just that, but to do more, as we can open maybe more sites and serve meals to more people. Part of that is going to be making sure that everyone knows that it's up and running. I think that since the city park sites have already launched, that will be easier to do than if we were just starting from nothing. So I'm encouraged about that, and also grateful for the city's role in this. We are hearing in our office there's a lot of questions about testing and how do people get to the testing, and so it's really good news that we have a second site now. It's still difficult for some people to access those things, though places like Legacy Health and Vecino clinics are offering testing, and in other neighborhoods. So please continue, if you're a District H resident, please continue to reach out to us. I would also encourage District H folks to just make sure you're getting the newsletter, because that goes out every Thursday morning, and it is full of really good information. And we've kind of switched more to a list of current resources that week that are available, and directing people to trusted, reliable places for that information on on food, on other resources, things for seniors, things for families, and and testing, but that we're trying to make sure that you're getting accurate information, and to counter any rumors that fly around. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. And just like to dovetail on a few comments made, some beautiful comments made by Reverend Ed Pollard. And also Mayberry Travis over there. Maybe we call you Goober Powell Travis or something like that. But of course, 80% of the room doesn't know what you're talking about when you make Mayberry references. But, you look out the window today, I don't know if there was a more beautiful day than yesterday. And then today is going to be the same kind of day. And as Goober Powell Travis mentioned, I mean, the number of people that are walking on the streets and the families that we now see that you never see. And, my wife and I are empty nesters, but we now have 2 of the kids home, and it's really been fun to do the afternoon jogs with my daughter and spend some time talking like we've never talked before, and spending some time with my son, doing different projects and binge watching Tiger King on Netflix, which happens to be the worst TV show in the history of the world. You want to see stupidity incorporated? Watch Tiger Kings on Netflix, because it is pretty funny. But we're binge watching TV till 2 in the morning and having a really good time doing it. And as Councilmember Travis said, you know, maybe this is going to bring us a lot closer. I know I've enjoyed those moments too, as my kids moved away and now they're back with us for a little bit of time, to having some more time to be daddy again and teach them things about the world that we live in. So, you know, people looking for statistics that we talk about. I think a lot of the people in our neighborhoods are really doing a great job with social distancing. And Mayor, you're doing a phenomenal job. I see it every day. You don't get the acknowledgement. You know, people on social media are right. Quit shaking hands with Scott McClellan. Social distance a little bit better, but you're doing a phenomenal job day in and day out, and I know we appreciate you. But the statistics, we're at 377 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Dallas is now over 600, I'm sorry. So 377, they're over 600. So I think our people are paying attention, especially in the state of Texas, as we're the closest major city to the city that I grew up in, New Orleans, where they do crazy stuff over there, and their numbers have gotten a little ridiculous. But great job by everybody, great job by the council, and appreciate the kind words and acknowledgments today, especially by Reverend Edward Pollard. I was going to tag your item, but I figured you'd get mad at me.
Thank you. The Vice Mayor Pro Tem, Castor Tatum.
Thank you, Mayor. During this time that we have been able to spend a little bit more time at home, I've had an opportunity to read more, and although a lot of the reading has been about the virus and the economy, and how the SBA can help our small businesses, and reading about the stimulus package, I wanted to highlight the work that the Greater Houston Partnership has done on their site. If you have not had an opportunity to get on the Greater Houston Partnership site, there is a collection of resources there that families can use, businesses can use, several individuals. They actually have flyers that businesses can print out and put on their door. Just a great collection of resources on that Greater Houston Partnership site. So I want to encourage people to get on that site if you have not had an opportunity to do that. And then I also want to encourage people to think about their mental health. Yesterday, when I sent out my letter to the residents in District K with our updates and just kind of checking in with them, I got a message back from Jewish Family Services, and they talked about the services that they are currently offering for free. They are offering free internet sessions for well-being. And I thought it was important that we share those services that are also available for our mental health. And if you are interested, there are sessions for adults as well as adolescents. I know that parents are at home doing a lot of homeschooling. I see the memes and the jokes on Facebook, and it cracks me up about the parents that now are teaching their kids at home, and I see a lot of teachers having a great time with their comments to the parents and say, oh yeah, little Johnny, he would never do that at school, right? So great comments from our teacher friends. But those sessions are available if you are interested in some mental well-being services from Jewish Family Services. Their website is jfshouston.org, and their phone number is 713-986-7832. And then I also want to thank our Parks Department for the work that they are doing with our meals between 1 and 3. I did ride around to a couple of our parks in District K, and I saw the park staff out, with their gloves. They have the table so families can come and curbside pick up their meals in a safe environment. So they're doing an outstanding job of making sure that residents who need food can access that food. And then I want to give a special shout out to our District K hot team. They are still on the ground working. I know that many families are at home and they're cleaning out their garages and they are cleaning out their homes, but I want to encourage people that illegal dumping is still a crime. They are picking up couches and dressers on sidewalks and all types of things. Heavy trash is still scheduled to pick up. Solid waste is still picking up heavy trash. I did reach out to Director Hayes and to the mayor to just encourage people that, while we're at home cleaning out our garages and our homes, to make sure that we save that for heavy trash, stack it up in the back or on the side until it's time for your heavy trash, because you put everyone at danger when you're dumping your sofas and your dressers in the esplanades and on the city property. So please be mindful of that when you are using this time to clean out and do some spring cleaning. And finally, I just want to thank everyone for staying home, encourage everyone to eat well, sleep well, get some exercise, and to watch out for each other, stay healthy. Yesterday, I had a great opportunity to post this quote, and I got a lot of response on it. And the quote reads, "Remember, the only thing more contagious than a virus is hope." So stay healthy, and I wish everyone the best through these times.
Thank you very much. I do want to acknowledge Councilmember David Robinson, who's watching us online. So give a shout out to Councilmember Robinson, and he also sent a note that he filled out his census yesterday. So he did his yesterday, and for others to do your census today. So thank you for the shout out, Councilmember Alcorn.
Yes, I received a text from Councilmember Robinson as well. He is quarantining, and he wanted me to remind everyone that there will be a TTI meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We're going to be talking about some really relevant things like the City of Houston's telecommuting policy, procedures for virtual meetings and conference calls for City of Houston employees, as well as an AT&T telecommunications services contract, an overview of a computer equipment services request for proposals, and replacement of our outdated automated metering reading system. So please attend. If you can't attend, send David or me your questions, and we'll be happy to get them asked. Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem, I forced George to watch 2 episodes of Tiger King just to figure out what everybody was talking about, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. We will not be going back to Tiger King.
Councilmember Shabazz.
I just wanted to give an update, Mayor. They said that the mobile units will start on Friday. Okay. And also wanted to share that everybody needs to be practicing social distancing with their refrigerators. And also, and finally, April Fool's is canceled because there ain't nothing funny this year. Thank you.
That's true. Councilmember, I like that with the refrigerator. Councilmember Travis.
Mayor, I just have to educate Councilmember Martin on something. It's actually Gomer Pyle.
His cousin was Goober.
Goober was the mechanic, and Gomer was the Marine. I just want to make sure that when we're out there, we get this right. We can go through Otis, we can go through everybody else. I got them all. It's 24 hours on 2 channels right now. So if you're not watching Tiger King, you can actually watch a very wholesome show 24/7.
Well, but the show that's getting the top rating right now is the Municipal Channel. And having said that, we are about to sign off. We are adjourned.